Live tonight from the virtual Daytona International Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the regular season finale for the 2020 Real Sim Racing Full Throttle Cup Series, powered by Boosted. We're happy to have you with us for round number 20 here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. We're alongside our producer Hugo Luis and Justin Prince. My name is Evan Pasoko as we say good evening and welcome to the World Center of Racing. Justin, we were here just 2 weeks ago for a road course first, but our trip down to Daytona Beach continues now for our second time on the Super Speedway, where that win and you're in looms large, whereas after tonight, we'll know the 16 drivers who will fight for the Full Throttle Cup in 2020.
And this is a track where anybody can come away with the victory, absolutely, Evan. Super Speedway racing at its finest, 80 laps on the docket. Strategy could be a very key part of tonight's complexion. In other words, if you're within the top 20 points entering tonight, you have a strong chance of trying to lock yourself in via going to victory lane by the end of this evening.
Yeah, the only caveat is you need to have started 10 regular season races. So there's going to be drivers that we don't even see in our points conversation that are going to be in the 30s, but they have 10 starts. They meet the requirement. A win tonight would lock them in. Here's what it looks like. All the drivers, left-hand side of your screen, they are good. They are in, Justin. Right side, though, that's where it gets interesting. Bradley Burke is safe on points, but if a driver below him were to win, it could spice things up.
Absolutely. Sexton with a good chance to try and win tonight has brought a teammate with him for this evening's action. Steve Durham, Sean Kalis, Steven Soa. Any of those drivers could win at this racetrack. And if you think back to the first time we were on the plate tracks, all those drivers were in contention here at Daytona back in the springtime. They may be able to try and take home the victory tonight to bump out either someone like a Jared Mogart or a Bradley Burke or a Brian Chambliss, depending on if they get into potential big ones tonight.
Qualifying is done. Let's go trackside and take a look at your starting grid. Pole position goes to Daniel Eberhardt with a 47.432. He'll bring us to the green flag alongside the 9 of Thomas George. Matt Alverson, Malik Ray going to make up row 2. They'll start 3rd and 4th with Adam Benefield through your top 5. Tommy Gossett going to join him on row number 3 and 6th with the Liam Sheen and Kyle Kamer 7th and 8th. Gary Sexton, Joseph Tice, the top 10.
Philip Ryan start in row 6 tonight with Cole Freilich starting in 13th. Brett McBride deep in the field in 14th after qualifying, with Jeremy Miller starting right next to Brian Chambliss. In 17th and 18th, it's Michael Rariah and Trevin Valderrama in 18th. Sean Kalis, one of the drivers, need to win tonight, deep in the field in 19th. Ross Cato rounds out your top 20.
And we'll allow the rest of the starting lineup to scroll through on your screen. Tonight is the Bryce Whitson Memorial 200. Bryce recently lost a 3-year battle with leukemia and had participated in RSR since 2014, including many appearances in our Full Throttle Cup Series last season. And over the course of his fight, he often championed the BeTheMatch.org Bone Donor Foundation. So what you're going to see tonight is a lot of memorial decals on the cars in honor of Bryce. The drivers, the teams have been making donations all week long, and RSR is also going to donate $1 to Be The Match for each lap led by a car in tonight's race running that decal. So if all 80 laps are led by drivers running a decal, we will donate $80. And we did mention, Justin, that Daniel Eberhardt was on pole position. You'll see he's no longer there. Bryce's motto was never quit, and Daniel Eberhardt has accepted the never quit challenge. So he has received an end of the longest line, a penalty, and by agreeing to give up his pole position, that is another $50 donation to BeTheMatch.org. If Daniel comes back and wins this challenge named in honor of Bryce, then Daniel will win $50 as well. So the purse already sits at our donation of $50. That's going to continue to grow, and a lot of drivers as well chipping in. I think a great way to pay tribute to a fellow friend and competitor.
100% agree, Evan, because Bryce Whitson Jr. was one of everyone's favorites on the iRacing service, at least one person in this field has raced against him. He raced in this series, remember, back in the day, just last year, in fact. He's been around the service for many years. It's still difficult to think about him gone, but now these drivers are all set to remember him in this memorial race tonight.
We'll continue to talk about Bryce's life and legacy as the night goes on, but we do have a sim race at our hands. The pace car is off and in, and we say, let's go racing from Daytona. This is the Bryce Whitson Memorial 200. Lap 1 in the books, and at 196 miles an hour, it is Matt Alverson on the inside, first career lap led in RSR Cup Series competition. He works with Liam Sheen. The inside, no doubt, was the place to be on the opening lap of this race. You can see Benefield, you can see George trying to work together up top, but the bottom is more controlled. Justin also saw last time down the super stretch a lot of drivers intentionally backing off. This is an 80-lap, 200-mile race. A lot of drivers want to make sure they get to the end.
Absolutely, and it's of course known that you expect to see at least one big one at these types of racetracks, and many drivers have two philosophies. We've seen that especially throughout the past week or so in the iRacing service. You either want to be up towards the front, leading laps and trying to set the tempo to stay in front of potential trouble, or you want to go to the very back of the field and try and avoid said trouble and keep your nose clean in case things get too intense up at the front. Two different philosophies. Curious to see again which routes work out tonight, because as I think we both seen on Tuesday in the Coke Series, Evan, there were those philosophies that came into play with some drivers thinking it was time to push even a quarter way through that respective race.
And I'm not sure we're going to see the sustained 3 wide like we saw on Tuesday. We saw a little bit of it here in the practice session earlier, but I think these drivers' idea of being conservative a little bit more so than the very top of the top. You saw the move. Liam Sheen went second in line to lead the outside. It was hoping that maybe Adam Benefield could push him to challenge for the race lead. Wasn't able to do so. So Gary Sexton up into second, but Ani Four of Agnew Phillip into third. And you did see that onboard look with Sexton just last lap as he's riding, giving us kind of the in-seat, the POV view with his onboard camera here tonight. But a lot of drivers dropping back. This is a big field. There are 43 drivers registered. 40 of them took to the green flag in this race. So that is a lot of traffic to deal with, as it has been all Alverson so far. Here comes Sexton to the outside. The 13 car going to go for the challenge.
And Alverson, his first start of the season for Elliott Sauer Esports. Keep in mind that's his teammate getting the push here. And this is one of the main storylines to think about too. Sexton, one of those drivers needing to win to get in the playoffs, very far behind on points. Also, it's important as a team, if you want to take this route to control the bubble, if those two on the bottom line continue to stay hooked up and keep trading spots with the top line cars, that could be paramount to try to get Sexton into the playoffs.
He basically needs that win. It's a 36-point difference to Bradley Burke. Mathematically not eliminated, but it is basically going to take a win for anybody below that cut line to make things happen. And as Sexton leads lap number 5, that is our first dollar donated on behalf of the lap leaders so far here from Daytona. But look at this, a big group of drivers, Justin, going for the undercut. Kamer, Kalist, Cato, Eberhardt, Stanford, and more. They are coming down pit road very early and dividing this field in half.
And the reason they're doing this, Evan, is it's a strategy call where some drivers know they'll have to top off at fuel at the very end of the race, or they can stretch it to a one-stop up to 42 laps. However, If you go for the top off, you have the chance to go early 5 to 10 laps into the race like we just seen right there for those respective drivers and not have to save fuel. Push and go for essentially a two-stopper if it remains green. If that's the case, you can potentially gain at least a second or two a lap because of everyone else who may elect to try and go for a one-stop. Seen this work, for example, just this past Thursday, Evan, in NIS competition for the Fixed Series, where a pack of cars, about 8 or so, closed up 35-plus seconds in the span of 30 laps. They caught up to the rest of the pack on their own, going full out by the time the others had to pit.
And on the left-hand side, you'll see Andrew Friedage on his own go to the apron. He has no drafting help, and that is a big, big negative for the season points leader coming into this evening, courtesy of 5 race wins. May not be a good Daytona run for him, but those 5 race wins going to give him quite the hefty start, a 15-point bonus as we head into the round of 16 next week. And also, we were off last Monday night. Justin, funny you talk about pit stops because it was pit strategy that won Kyle Trudell, the RealSimRacing IROC Series season finale last week in Michigan, and that allowed Kyle to just squeak out a points championship atop of yours truly for 5 points. So that was fun to race it on the off weeks, and we could expect the IROC action to be back in 2021. The drivers really enjoyed and competed in that on our off weeks. But clearly this lead pack not responding to the group who came down to the pit lane early. They're comfortable with what they're doing, and that pack behind of about 7 cars is currently running just up the road, but a little bit discombobulated. There's 4 of them together, and then there's 3 Justin. And the draft is really what's going to be to hurt them because everybody's got a same pit delta coming in, coming out, but it's the speed you do when you get back out on track that's going to hurt. This lead pack running faster than all those cars that are shuffled up the road, and that's time they really can't afford to give away.
Yeah, that's a great point because here's something people don't realize. It's actually faster this year to go side by side because the amount of side draft. You line up single file like those drivers who elected to try and pit. They're not going to be fast enough to try and maintain, even close up the gap to these respective cars. You have a group of 4 cars on the bottom, 4 in the middle line. You might be able to do it, but they're not even working together, it seems, to try and get that to work so far. And that's what's hurting them and losing them tons of time to these cars on screen, 37 seconds back.
Going to be interesting. You get 1 car or 2 in the case of Friedage. It's easy to get around. If this lead pack were to catch that line, which is now all single file, as we see Sexton back to the outside of Lee and Sheen in a battle for the race lead here, it could be a lot more difficult for these lead cars to be able to navigate their way on through. You can see Sexton almost clear on the outside. Liam Sheen running a great BeTheMatch.org car tonight as you are on board with your new race leader. That's the view out front. Sexton going to go back to the race lead. He was pushed through by the 83 of Benefiel, who challenges at the line. It was P2 just barely, but he hopes the shove from George going to put him out in front. And, I mean, relatively speaking, Justin, the battling going on right now, I don't want to say inconsequential, but it's more so just about trying to stay with teammates and stay with draft help. You talked about, of course, the first start for Alverson wanting to work with Gary Sexton, needing a win. This is certainly a race where drivers on larger teams now, as Benefiel will take his crack at the race lead, and the Roll Speed Dynamics entry can really stand to benefit.
100% on that, and it's come into play many times in this series' history. Think back last year especially, just about every single super speedway race, Yage's cars had elected to go to the very back of the field, then start pushing after they tried to go with the front-running strategy early on. Might be part of the reason why Friedage started from the pit lane tonight, is now a lap down, but it comes down essentially to the discussions pre-race and how you want to run an event such as this tonight. And knowing, okay, do I need a win? Am I good on the points? Do I need to try and push and be an aggressor? Do I want to try and lead laps? That's all stuff that has to come in mind, as well as the fuel mileage. Because when you're up towards the front of the pack, you're burning a lot more fuel than, say, in the middle at the back of the pack, where you're going about half throttle.
And it is pretty close, speaking as you mentioned, and to walk through the strategy and kind of the rationale for those 7 drivers who decided to come down to the pit lane a little bit earlier in this race, tight enough that it does make those calls a little bit more viable. I mean, that's not the only group of drivers that has dropped the back. We kind of have this lead group that's about 27 cars wide, or 27 cars deep. The top 14 are side by side. You got another dozen or so behind them. But then you've got a group that's dropped the back that I do not believe has come down pit road. It's Soa, Mosier, Pellegrini, Winfield, Valderrama. That's all 5 of the subpar racing cars have dropped way back. None of those cars currently in a playoff spot, but we talked about the strength in numbers. You can see that team back there. JP, they're obviously trying to survive. These are cars that are, P20 to 25 any given week. They scrap out for top 15s, top 10s, and get good points runs. They have just as good a chance as anybody else to win this race, but they don't want wrecked cars. So they have gone the complete opposite of the guys up front. They have dropped way back, and they're obviously banking on this race having some calamity.
Yeah, 100%, and it gives them obviously a lot of time to respond when you're not 10 car lengths, let's say, behind cars
that's
spinning around.
15 seconds back. It's not a little bit there or way back.
Yeah, it's a bit of an understatement. I was trying to put on the emphasis there, but part of it why I think, though, is too, Steve is one of those drivers in Soa from that team who has a chance to win and get in tonight if he gets some luck. You don't want to end up all being up towards the front as a team and then getting involved in a big one on lap 30, let's say, and that puts you completely out of contention for the postseason. So just playing smart for tonight so far, letting the race play out to see if it ends up going green, if it ends up having some attrition, etc.
And of course, there is always the concern that you might overthink things. That's a pack of only 5 cars. They're running slower than, of course, the lap times for your race leaders. Race leaders in the high 44s the last time by. That group of 5 was in the mid 45, so they're losing more time. Obviously, they think there's going to be a yellow. They don't want to be up in all of this 2-wide up front. I mean, half the lead pack doesn't even want to be in the 2-wide up front. Looks like about 7 cars low, 7 cars high, give or take. And then the rest are still close. That other pack is going to continue to lose time. And if this thing goes green, they could lose laps. So they're obviously hoping on some calamity and maybe a big incident involving a lot of those championship contenders early in the running. But you can see Benefiel, he, Sexton, Sheen have kind of been swapping out for the race lead the last couple of times around. We're clean and green now, working lap number 16 of 80 in this Bryce Whitson Jr. Memorial 200. And Adam Benefiel up in front of the field, one of those drivers who would like to park it in victory lane here this evening, make a statement.
Yeah, and Benefiel, remember, started the season off with a victory to open up 2020, and what was an exciting finish in a back and forth with some contact here and there with Malik Ray helping him at the time, and a few other drivers in the mix. So Benefiel looking for yet another super speedway victory here. Sexton's also been very aggressive whenever he's got towards the front of the group to try and control the bubble. But we've seen as well that angle of all the drivers working together for majors, as well as one of the fast forward esports machines. They're definitely at risk of potentially losing a lap at this rate, unless things change. But the way they're fighting, though, and the way there's cars now into the yellow line, this could get interesting. The 31 into the line.
It was a big checkup of the outside line. Fowler went low, and it spooked Tommy Gossett. He was making his first start in some time in a rebranded number 31 Coca-Cola Chevrolet. Traded that out for the 08 that he had been piloting earlier this year. So the vanilla Coke entry aborted that and was able to hang on. And now the race leaders spread out just a little bit. 1-2, Sexton and Alverson. So there is a big strategic advantage to having teammates. So we talk about the larger teams, but how about in the case of Alverson to make it his first start of the year? How about like we see in the Daytona 500 or other large events? How about basically getting a car signed up and ready to race for the sole purpose of helping a teammate? And right now, it is working great.
I wouldn't say it's the complete sole purpose, but it's also, when you go to super speedways on iRacing, it brings out a lot of drivers you normally wouldn't see running a stock car. For example, you might see some of the short track normal drivers. You might see drivers who like to just run the super speedways for fun, end up jumping back into the cockpit for official races. That's the way a lot of drivers end up playing things out. So it's not just about teamwork, it's also about having it to where it can be fairly fun going near full out, or in theory going full out, and trying to win a race in that regard. By the way, this entire pack, the way it's been shuffling, it's starting to lose time here and there now to all those cars that are just up in front of them up the road by about 10 seconds.
They are starting to get, a little bit more controlled in the case of that 7-car pack, but it can only help them, I think, so much at this point. They've got to balance things out, and if I was on track, I'd kind of like to be in the low 20s right now. The Mogards, the Jonathan Caddells. Haven't seen Caddell on track in a couple of weeks. Happy to have him here in this race. I know it means a lot to him. Happy to race with Bryce over the course of so many years. Tom Morano as well. I think that's kind of the sweet spot, is the low 20s. In touch with the lead pack, but far enough behind to the point where if they junk all of them, you have a reasonable opportunity to save that car and not get involved in the incident, whereas I'm not sure that strategy for the subpar cars is working, because they've lost 5 seconds to the race leader since we last checked in with them. They're now almost a half a lap behind, and again, they're only going to continue to lose more time the longer this green flag run goes, just because this lead pack with more cars is so much faster. First look, though, how about Jeremy E. Miller, the 27 to the outside, pushed by the 9. Poor Thomas George has been loyal to the outside, but he hasn't had an opportunity to go for the race lead. This time he's pushing the 27 Valvoline Camaro.
It's the second time this season we've actually seen Miller in the field. The last time was all the way back at Michigan. 23rd place is where he finished, but remember, led laps in that race before he got in some trouble. 37 total out of the 80 he led, so he has a chance to try and get himself finally to victory lane in his second start of 2020 if he plays things out right. He does have some friends, looks like, behind him again, and George willing to work with him. Rodden's willing to also work with him in this freight train.
In quarter distance, you can see slow on the apron there was the number 31 of machine, so Tommy Gossett down pit road. He got disconnected from the lead pack after that near incident in turn 3, so he's going to try to get things up to speed, but he is serviced off and away. And that's obviously going to give up some pretty considerable time for him, but hopes that it doesn't hurt him all that much, as he does not want to be like Andrew Freitas, who currently is the only driver a lap down. And I have to think David Washington must have missed the start of this race, Justin, because we do now have 41 cars on track. I initially mentioned 40. Washington is going, but he is 17 laps down after having some sort of an issue that kept him off the grid.
110%, yes, came off the pit lane just 5 laps ago, was on the bottom of the racetrack, if you noticed, in the 98 machine. So not the way I think Washington wanted this race to play out, but he makes the start, gets a chance, Evan, to get some points, and in turn, still trying to keep Freitas in what could be the lucky dog position here. Now they're at that lead pack with the sub-bar racing machines, as Thomas George with a problem.
Yeah, there's a couple of cars slow. It sounds like Caddell is one of them. No yellow at the moment. I see Michael Kaczynski down and into the inside wall as well. But no yellow, as Kaczynski was involved with a couple others.
Yeah, and a bit of a close-up there, right there, with some contact, some extra contact there for McBride, Kaczynski, and a couple others. Surprised no yellow there. None of the cars, though, went more than 45 degrees there to trigger it in the middle of the racetrack. You can see right here, Rodden builds up a decent run. George, I think, was trying to get around as the 27 blew up.
So an issue with Jeremy E. Miller is, no, somebody else is the 27 still going for the time being, but you can see the 9 there. But it just broke up at it over. Let's go on board with George here, because Miller's running again. So let's see if we see smoke out of the 27. This is Thomas George's. I mean, there's smoke, but I think it was just contact smoke, and he ends up into the wall. But you can see Miller straightened it out. George does actually go around Kaczynski on the apron, Justin, but you mentioned it was not enough to automatically trigger the caution flag from iRacing, and on top of that, race control steps in if more than 3 cars are involved, but only really Kaczynski went all the way around.
Yeah, part of me there originally thought with how much smoke was brought up on the HBR car of Miller that it might have been a blown engine. Instead, you were right. Just lost, snapped out to the left, hit the side of the car to his inside, and brought up a ton of smoke. This lead pack, though, has completely been dissipated, though, as a result. Just 9 cars in the lead pack. The next group is about 4.5 seconds back plus. Then there's another group that is 7+ seconds back that all have to check up. So this field's really spread out as a result of this. Still about 10 laps or so until the opening of the next for the first pit window, rather.
And that's the kind of incident that the drivers dropping back were, trying to stay out of the lead pack, especially to avoid. The issue is when it doesn't trigger a caution flag, it doesn't help you at all. And you can see the spacing. That's that secondary pack. Here come the leaders. And you can see that huge gap to the next pack of cars coming off of turn number 2. The first little group is spearheaded by Matt Maher. You got Cadell, Davis, Trudell in there, and then they're side by side from there on back. But it is really spread apart this field, as you mentioned, and that could be seen as a good thing for that group of 7 who pitted earlier, because they can have a better chance of keeping up to speed with the lead pack now that there's less cars in that. The subpar group of cars now with the Washington and Friedage have less cars to battle against, so it kind of evens out the playing field as far as all packs on track probably equal on speed now.
And the one thing that's going to hurt, too, we mentioned Sexton needing a victory tonight to try and make the postseason. He was that car that got hit on the right front with that contact in that near spin. So now he's got a little bit of side damage to his fender. Don't know if it's going to be too much a factor. I'll have to wait and see. There's also some damage to Alverson's right front as well, should note, to his respective car from the contact.
In Daytona, it's funny because we talk about it being, the most aerodynamically sensitive track on the schedule. You can get away with a little bit of damage, but I don't think you can get away with as damaged of a car in sim as you probably could in the real world. And obviously, front-end damage more so going to hurt drivers. It'll slow things down, going to be harder to push, and on top of all of that, you have a chance of those temps going up. Wouldn't be shocked, despite the fact that we are racing at night. It's only 72 degrees trackside, 69 degrees the atmospheric temp. Still wouldn't be surprised if these drivers get pushing pretty aggressively, that we see some blown engines tonight. But it looks like, fortunately enough for the 27 Miller, not a blown engine in that near incident. Yeah. And despite the fact that it started race basically right by him, he's still P8 inside of this lead pack, which is top 9 breakaway, putting lap number 28 behind us.
110%, no blown engine. Apologies again, once again, on my front part for that. But still, talking about the damage, there is some little bits here and there I think he can try and get away with. Like the little nicks mentioned, the 2 cars up at the front. I think they can somewhat get away with it. But if you say get a dent to the front nose right where the radiator is, or significant shock to the back end where it damaged the spoiler, it might be enough in turn, Evan, to turn you from a pushy to a pusher. Meaning, if you're in the lead part of the pack, it slows you down, but you might be able to still push. Any more significant damage to that, like, say, significant side damage, significant front nose damage, no front nose, that turns you basically into a sitting duck in regards to super speedway racing.
And you can probably still stay in contact with drivers just by being in the pack, drafted off of others. But you're right, you are not going to make a very good pushy. And certainly by leading a lane or leading a group, not going to get too far. But it's incredible to see all the space up here at the front of the field. You can see Cole Fralick making a move outside of the inside. He's got the Be The Match colors on board his number 87 machine this evening, and 2 sets of 2. Alverson pushed by Rodden. Sexton pushed by Fowler. As the outside inevitably stalls out into the corner. Going to be hard for them to survive with just 2 cars opening outside, so I wouldn't be shocked if they both drive down to the inside. Not going to do it, though, as Benefield feels the gap, and they'll come with another run. But at lap number 31, you have to start thinking about fuel, and the fact that most of these cars have been up front since the get-go, so they're in a position where they have been using a little bit more fuel. If you can get to 40, you're good, but that's a big ask, we think.
Yeah, I'd absolutely expect for them to be able to reach that, they need to be a little tiny bit slower, a couple tenths. I think realistically, they might get to 38. Have to wait and see, but now looking like just everyone trying to just get to the bottom side here, Evan, just get lined up before they all have to duck down for their scheduled pit stops, as we're just about at that green light mark. It's also the chance, though, you see in the backdrop from San Diego, a chance, if you can, to try and gain a couple extra positions. Normally you'd see that a lot if we still have the main pack, but not so much here where there's only a couple cars who are trying to gain spots and the rest of them are just content with being in the lead pack after pit stops.
And then it'll be interesting because we kind of have this lead group of cars, not a pack, but it's basically everybody running inside of the top 28 have yet to come down pit road, and 29 at the back is that first group that came in. But even all those cars that haven't pitted yet are kind of all shuffled up and jumbled up on their own. Look at the 9 machine dropping it back. That had been such a good car early. Thomas George was up on the outside, kind of spearheading that effort for much of the night. Instead, he is now down and off of the lead lap, just getting lapped that time through, and he also hasn't come down to the pit lane. So that's how quickly fortunes can turn. And also, would be remiss not to talk a little bit about Daniel Eberhardt. We mentioned him in passing, but of course your pole sitter took that never quit challenge, and by doing so got $50 donated to BeTheMatch.org in his name by getting the EOL from pole. He pitted with that very early group, so that's why we haven't talked much about him, running at about 35 seconds off of this, which surprisingly enough, yes, this is your lead pack, lap number 33.
Keep in mind that next grouping, which got really checked up because that contact in the back straightaway 10 laps ago, right there they're closing in and somewhat quickly. About 4/10 a lap on average. About now just 4 seconds behind from Sam Nieto and company. Led by Matthew Mara, Jonathan Dell, Kyle Trudell, Dan Kraus, a few different drivers. Quickly reeling them on in as a bit of code words for some of the teammates with some of the navigation for the traffic you see.
That's going to be a thing all night long, and these drivers driving a little bit more aggressively than that lead pack. It looks like it's really just Grant Davis and Bradley Burke working together on the outside. There's the on-board look with Matt Mara as he's pushed by Cadell running the VR goggles. Mara right now in the number 10 position, the lead car of this second group of leaders. The interval is about 4.2 seconds up to your race leaders. However, they are faster than your lead group the last couple of times around. The gap now slashed to 3.6 seconds. I think we're a little bit too close to the pit cycle for them to blend back in. But if they can keep this group together through pit stops, then maybe they can keep the momentum going and catch back up to the lead pack, and to make sure that the top 9 or so don't simply frolic away with this race.
As we take a look on board once again at your front runner with his view with the clean racetrack. But here's the main thing when it comes to diving into the pit lane. There's a reason they call the run to pit entry Calamity Corner, because you have different ways drivers will take it. Some will take it soft. Some will charge it on in. Malik Ray, the best example of that, who's able to floor it just about all the way up to the commitment cone and just slam on the brakes and barely get it down to average speed by the first timing section. There's also the risk, though, at the same time as a result, for drivers to make contact, in some cases, wheel hop their way up the racetrack. So there are a few gambles that could happen in few dangerous points during this pit stop window. Pit stop calls starting to come in for the second pack, I believe, this time by, as they've already closed up the gap to the lead pack.
They have closed it into 2.5. They are there, and drivers from both packs are now saying they are heading to pit road. Who's in? They're almost all in, but there's contact behind and a spinner. Adam Benefield's around. There is more cars now. It is a melee, and that's going to trigger a yellow.
And what did I say? Different braking marks, and in that case, Rodden just about missed his by at least 20 car lengths, it seemed. My goodness, several cars sent flying. That's going to really hurt a few drivers with some unsafe pit exits as well, and entries with them sliding off to the grass.
And we'll have a lot of time to look over this. You can see yellow flag pit stops for Sexton. Some of those drivers were able to get down without a penalty. I think others will be penalized, but the first thing I saw was that coming to pit road was Agnell Phillip. Jeremy E. Miller was not, and Agnell Phillip basically slowed down in front of him. He got tagged into Benefield, and then there was the same amount of miscommunication with Kyle Trudell in the 7. He was not pitting, but Jonathan Cadell was trying to for the outside of him. That was that second bit of contact, and it was ugly.
Let's take a look, because you mentioned Benefield spinning around, was sent around like a bottle top. There was a second driver, Mara, who was sent flying by Cadell. Then right there, just more drivers just hotlined it in. Rodden actually got hit from behind by one of the Ford Mustangs, I believe. that just slammed him into 3-4 other cars and sent everybody off to the grass, including your main leaders.
So this is really going to shake things up because the cars behind forced to pit under caution flag conditions. Of course, they hadn't yet gotten around to the pit lane before the yellow flag came out, and it kind of all broke out. So they may be at some sort of a disadvantage because they're going to have to come in and drop to the back. And you can see John Rodden, his trip down to pit road. There's the hit from behind. I mean, he looked like he was okay, Justin, to push to the marks just a little bit, but he got slammed out of nowhere on that.
Yeah, I seen him flying and thought at first it was him, but then I think it was Kyle Trudell who slammed into him at like 40, 50 miles an hour quicker with all the contact and everyone just trying to avoid the mayhem. You see right there?
Ooh.
Just huge hit for Sexton sent spinning into the pit boxes.
And this yellow will bridge us just past halfway, Justin. I'm not sure by exactly how much, but right now working lap number 39 as your race leaders come in. As we get another look there in the onboard shot with Trudell, who just apologized over the radio and said, I got basically run over from behind in that incident. Wondering if some drivers may go for the top off right before this restart in attempts to go the distance from here.
Yeah, and you see right there, made contact with the Goodell and then ran to the back into more cars there. Curious where he may have been hit prior to that, if that's the case, but still. Here's the difficult part in all this. Here's the better look, in fact, for Trudell. This is a quickie yellow track. There's not a lot of time to get repairs, and in turn, that can cause problems. Yes, indeed, just went off the door at Goodell and just went flying into the back end of 2-3 cars.
So that will end the night for Jonathan Goodell, at least. He was involved in the incident, has gone to the garage. He was one of those drivers that was basically looking for a trip to victory lane. If he were to have an opportunity to fight for the championship here this season, it would have been, tonight was start number 10. So he would have met that requirement, would have been eligible. Unfortunately, not going to happen for him. And I also thought that maybe because that this shuffled everybody up, Justin, this could stand to benefit the cars that had pitted earlier, but unfortunately for them, they don't get anything extra out of this. They can't stay out and then pit in 5 laps like their strategy would have been. So all those cars that pitted early, and also those cars that were kind of hanging back, they don't gain anything in this because they also have to pit. And now basically the track position they gave up now to hopefully gain later is just a loss.
I'm surprised actually to see Matthew Mara here staying on the racetrack as well with a big shot from behind, but 100% on that one. It's now, if it stays green for here too, Evan, a potential fuel mileage race. We mentioned needing to save to make it on a one-stop normally in this race. We're right at that mark where you need to save. Longest I've seen anyone go is 41 laps here, and that's going to require drivers to really back it down. And one damaged car on the bottom side. Another who pit on the last caution, gaining a lot of spots, and Dane Kraus will now get the chance to lead us forward. John Fowler still with significant damage, currently scored P3 on the racetrack with all this craziness.
So through all of that, the lights are out on top of the pace car. We are going to get set to go back underway. And it is quite a shuffled up running order. Adam Benefield not happy with the iRacing timing and scoring. I believe he may have had some sort of a penalty on pit road entry, Justin, that has trapped him a lap down now because it was kind of bang-bang on all those drivers coming in and when that yellow flew.
I mean, when some of the cars are pushed about 20 miles an hour over the speed limit and then pushed into the grass, it's understandable. But also some of the cars who had to get repairs done from the first contact that didn't bring out the yellow, that had to get some repairs done in turn. This is going to be intriguing how this plays out with several lap cars in front of some of the lead cars.
The pace car down and in. Let's try this again with a lot of damaged race cars. Green flag flies. We're back underway, and we are halfway home from Daytona. 40 down, 40 to go.
And several drivers you mentioned, you were thinking we're going to top off. 6 on back did Evan, Morano, Davis, Mogart, Lariah, Burke, Tice, Eberhard amongst those top drivers who elected to top off. It's going to be close, though, for the top 5. on the racetrack as they're 3 wide nearly for the lead.
Gonna challenge for the race lead, try to make this happen. But it looks like now as the run's gonna go off 3 wide now, contact maybe with Soa in the middle. The 46 gonna go to the race lead, and they are now still 3 wide behind.
And Phillip nearly got slammed into the wall, I believe, just about shot. Fowler's now stuck on the top, and now Eberhardt losing some time. Absolute chaos here in this group as still several drivers could not come down or elected not to come down during the second lap coming to the 1 to go.
So this discombobulated caution has led to a discombobulated restart, JP, and you had damaged cars inside, damaged cars outside, and I think that kind of led to all of the craziness. And through all of that now, you have a semi-breakaway, but I think that it'll settle itself out, and we'll be back with one pack. The big thing is, though, the cars trapped the lap down by the timing of the yellow. That's going to be the issue with only 27 cars on the lead lap. A lot of drivers communicating right now back and forth. Hey, how's my damage? I'll look at yours. Kind of communicating because a lot of them didn't have really the opportunity with where the pace car was, Justin, to sit and get a lot of damage fixed, or they would have lost a lead lap. You're on board with Fowler. Look on the inside. That is a destroyed rear end of Matthew Mara, who despite that is P2 right now on the inside.
Yeah, and he's trying to push a lap down car, actually, to try and get his lap back. That's Austin Wagner up in front of him. Caution is out. Down the backstretch, Sam Nieto.
The 27 of Jeremy Miller involved. Sam Nieto, as you mentioned, is down and in the grass. And it is a 2-car incident on their own that nobody's happy about on the radio. Let's look.
Yeah, big shot down the backstretch, and then just went right underneath even the yellow line and made contact with the left rear. At that point, just a bit of a rough shove, and in turn, just spins around Sam Nieto as a result. I wouldn't be happy either in that regard.
So there is a lot of back and forth right now on the radio. Of course, Jeremy E. Miller, Justin, only having made 2 starts this season. Sam Nieto, on the other hand, in the unique position, I guess you would, of trying to maintain a decent run, and of course is outside of the top positions in the points. He would need a win to advance tonight, and that incident doesn't really help him, so he had some choice words on the radio. Granted, the 2 car was pretty clean before that contact. The back end was damaged, so it's not all fresh, but Sam Nieto's night gets a little bit worse there, I think, in an avoidable situation.
And I'm curious, though, who's going to end up ducking down under this caution, because now for sure you'll be good to go on fuel, as well as for if you have a green-white checkered. It's also a chance if you want to go to the back to regroup. Not surprised to see a couple drivers duck down for this caution flag.
Some fakes, though, as well. The restart was right at 40 to go, so I thought we would maybe get to 42, 43. It was a pretty quick caution, so I don't think the top-off strategy that I was kind of thinking out loud about was going to work too great, but there are a lot of cars down pit road. I'm only seeing Mara, looks like Fowler, Soa, and Soa, Winfield, not even lead lap cars anymore, because again they got caught out in the cycle. So you got Mara and Fowler, Morano and Davis, and then some more. You got Lariah, Tice, Burke staying out. But I'm shocked, Justin, because you can save about 2 to 3 laps of fuel or so under the yellow right now, which I'm sure they're doing. That doesn't give you buffer for overtime, and of course it's Daytona. You kind of have to expect that that's about a 50-50 shot, but I'm surprised more drivers didn't go for the track position to try to save some fuel here like those top few are.
Well, there is a reason, I think, too, Evan, is green-white checkers. You want to make sure you have just enough fuel to be able to have to do that without having to worry about running out of gas. I've seen a couple times, Evan, actually, where this green-white checkered attempt, it goes to a second or third attempt, and one of the drivers who kept that track position runs out of gas, and a big one ensues as a result of that. So that's understandable. You have many drivers having to get damage repair. You also have many drivers having a chance to go to the back and regroup as teammates here. This in turn also, though, still pins down multiple drivers off the lead lap as regards to this, so this is going to hurt their chances still of getting back in contention, including drivers like Winfield, like Soa, who are going to in turn be still pinned 1 lap down because they can't get the wave.
They were really hoping that two more cars up front decided to come down to the pit lane and they could get around, I believe, and now they realize that, Justin, just as you say that, they're stuck. Again, Soa needing a win. He could have help from teammate Devin Winfield to push him, but Steve Soa was a driver who needed a win. The yellow flag traps him a lap down, so he figures, well, I might as well come down and pit because he was going to be stuck down there regardless. He gains nothing. This is like almost 10 cars down a lap. Winfield, Benefield, McBride, Freilich had to serve a penalty for changing lanes before the start-finish line the last time, so he's a lap down. Valderrama, Pellegrini, Farinaj, Alverson, Soa, Mosier. And again, these aren't drivers who were just kind of way out of it. It just happened on the timing for the pit cycle. That first yellow trapped them a lap down, and that is going to be a vicious fight for the lucky dog, I think.
Yeah, that's going to be a little bit hectic. I'm curious again who's going to get that, and that's where some of the clean cars going to come into play, with Wagner having some pace actually to beat up at the front. It was the pushing buddy, in fact, for John Fowler before the last caution flag. Curious if he can get himself some track position again. You have drivers towards the back, though, like Alverson, like Benefield, like Winfield. This is going to be very aggressive. I'm concerned, though, if you're Matt Mara still with the back bumper damage, because we've seen how he was having troubles getting up to speed, and no one was willing to give him really too much of a push. Got shuffled up fairly quickly. Weeby was worried a bit on the radio, in fact, Devin, about if it doesn't get an air yellow.
So the pace car going to be off and in. This time through, we will restart and try again. This time, going to be 34 laps to go from the Daytona International Speedway. And possibly with a handful of yellow flags still left in this race. Pace car give it down and in. It's Matt Mara in control.
Good launch once again for Mara here. And this is starting to get a little bit ugly already in the pack. Already one car off of the apron. That's Brian Chambliss. Just able to hold on to it. That could have been disaster. It's a heck of a fight towards the front as a car spun around the back. That's Austin Wagner, and holy goodness. This is just continuing to get wild in this race tonight, to say the very least. Over other things we just discussed during that caution flag, some of the intensity. There's a reason on Tuesday, last Tuesday in fact, that drivers in the Coke Series had mentioned with there being more pressure for that respective race, they were expecting more intense race. There's more pressure tonight. And now Eberhard already up to the lead as a result of all the craziness over the past couple laps off the jump. At this point, there's a lot of potential upset racers up towards this front here we talked about. Kamer coming off a big-time victory. Few more other drivers could get interesting, to say the very least, up in the front here. It's going to reset. It's Eberhard, Mara, Davis, Fowler, and Morano inside the top 5. Tice, Campbell, Lariah, Caldwell, and Burke inside your top 10. Eberhard, of course, trying to go from last to first with the challenge tonight. 31 laps to go this time by. Sheem amongst the drivers trying to work from the back of this grouping. Too wide, several rows deep throughout the pack already at this racetrack. Davis looking for one of his best finishes of the season. Fowler becoming everyone's best friend on the top line. Keep an eye on the back of the grouping as some of the lap cars are trying to unlap themselves. Liam Sheem is also driving the draft off the back into the top line. Big push again for the bottom side. Mara coming a good pusher now that he's up to speed. With that back damage, a bit of a shuffle up to the top line. Three set with 30 laps to go. 35 cars are still on the racetrack that are one or no laps down. George, Kaczynski, and Washington are several laps down. Your DNFs currently Nieto with damage repair. Cadell, along with Wagner, Ray, and Scott, did not start for tonight's racing action. Still 2x2 up towards the front of the field. Looking at the beautiful back end of Daniel Eberhardt, trying to hold on. Let's go to race spot fan immersion as they're 2-3 wide in the lead pack. 29 laps to go for the regular season finale of RSR Cup Series competition. Big crash down the front straightaway. Caution flag is out. Sean Kalis, Dylan Jones, Bradley Burke, Tommy Gossett involved in a big one down the front straightaway. At least 10 plus cars involved. We're back under yellow, coming at 24 laps to go. This is what happened. You see now on your screen. This regular season finale, some aggressive moves and towards the front of us, 2, 3, and 4 wide. Cars bounced off the wall. Burke got squeezed. Freenosh involved. Several other big contenders needing victories also involved, including Sean Kalis and company. Gary Sexton also slamming the brakes into the incident. You see at the last moment. Let's take another look at this angle once again. They were starting to file up 3 wide and shuffle a lot down the front stretch. And right here, drift up, hard into the wall goes Burke. And at full speed at least, 7, 8 plus cars hit at least 3, 4 others ricochet into the aftermath. Take a matter look, this is exactly what I was referring to with Burke. You can see Fowler up the middle side, right behind Lariah. Freenosh trying to give a bit of a shove before backing off for the trial, but right there. Squeeze trying to keep it off the safer barrier. Freenosh nowhere to go. Gossett, Washington, Pellegrini, a bunch of others spin around in as a result. A couple more end up technically going through, but getting significant damage as a result. You see the back end of that replay with the front nose. And that was the second pack that was in this race. For those who missed, there was a big one coming into the first green flag race for this race tonight. Here's a look here. These are some of the cars involved in that chaos that in turn needed victories, including Sexton, who slams on the brakes trying to avoid everything as everyone else in the pack gets demolished. And just avoided the back end of Alberson, his teammate, who was stopped right in front of him with Freenosh tangled up and down the front. So back under yellow once again, 23 laps to go this time by several drivers with significant damage as a result of this caution flag. To reset, Justin Prince, Evan Pizzoka will rejoin me in just a few moments. Hugo Ruiz in the director's seat. This caution flag meaning Sexton, Dan Cruz, along with Phil, Stafford, Miller, Trudell, Kalis, Cato, Jones, Durham, and multiple others now down the pit lane for significant repairs. Kaczynski now out of the race at the top of the caution. Tommy Gossett also done for the night. One of the low-line racing drivers outside the series in Road to Pro competition. This means at this point now, there are 23 cars on the lead lap in this respective race, with Daniel Eberhardt leading the field. Matthew Mara, despite significant back-end damage, still in second, working with Davis, Morano, Tice, Kamer, Lariah, Caldwell, Fowler, and Liam Sheen inside your top 10 for the closing stages. Again tonight, the Bryce Whitson Jr. Memorial 200 this evening, 200 miles on the docket for the regular season finale. And this was a race expected to be intense. Many of the drivers helping raise money for good causes. Anyone who was driving with memorial sticker in memory of Bryce Whitson Jr., a longtime iRacer, a longtime racer in various series, including RSR competition last year, raised $1 per lead lap for charity. And tonight, these drivers trying to continue that cause this evening, trying to continue to raise good, fun cause money for BeTheMatch.org tonight. Remember, when it comes to Eberhardt, it's a chance for a big-time victory for him as a result of electing to take the Never Quit Challenge tonight. He elected to take an EOL after starting from the pole and in turn donate $50 to BeTheMatch.org. If he wins the race, he can walk away with $50 as well tonight. This is going to get interesting to see how this all fares out as we get the one-to-go signal. Coming towards one to go, this time by Mara, amongst those drivers towards the front. Currently a longer pace lap situation here with many cars with significant damage. This is a quick yellow racetrack here this evening, here at Daytona International Speedway. To reset your drivers who needed a victory tonight, to have a shot to make it to the postseason, outside the cut line, were Sexton, who has damage, Durham, Kalis, and Soa amongst those drivers. Several of them were just involved in the most recent or the caution before that, with Soa pinned a lap down the race. Other drivers, though, who needed to lock themselves in on points, such as Bradley Burke, with significant damage after that respective incident tonight. Durham is in P20 on the racetrack at this moment. Sexton in 15th. Also, as well, Kalis amongst those drivers with significant damage, 22nd. To reset your top 15, it's Eberhard and Mara, Morano and Davis, Tyson Kamer. Then you have Lariah and Caldwell, Sheen and Fowler, the 46, the first driver outside the top 10 with John Rodden. Trudell is in 13th, Stanford and Phillip, your top 15 cars. Also keep an eye on a few drivers with little damage towards the back. Dylan Jones, Steve Durham with a little bit of back-end damage is in 19th. Mogart's been trying to keep the race calm, actually backed out of the lead pack before the chaos started to rain, but has a potential black flag, unfortunately, with the caution period. Several contenders could make their way up towards the front by the end of this night. Of course, the postseason window starts at Darlington, then heads to Richmond and Bristol for the round of 16, round of 12, remember Las Vegas, Talladega, the Roval. Then, as per real life as well, Kansas, Texas, Martinsville, the round of 8, before things finish at Phoenix. These drivers looking to secure a good finish to the end of their regular season campaigns, all for a good cause tonight. Pace car is off, 20 laps to go from Daytona International Speedway. Eberhard in control of the field, green flags back out. And already a massive amount of trouble here at the back of the field. Several cars off to the apron, in fact, trying to darn and dodge each other here.
Well, I'll tell you what, Justin, it's been very different in this second half compared to what we saw in the first half of the race. Calm, cool, nearly the recycled green flag pit stops, and honestly, this race just hasn't gotten his rhythm back. There's another car now, off and in the grass. No yellow for the time being. It looks like we'll stay okay, but that's John Rodden now. Out into the grass, he's damaged after he made contact with Eric Stanford. Here's a look.
And I'm not sure what Stanford was doing there underneath the old line. I think just wanted to get around the damaged car. Rodden and sends himself into the safer barrier. But that's outside the racing surface, no caution. And significant damage as the lead pack all sorts of scrambled, and all of this has led to Grant Davis taking the race lead.
Grant Davis was one of those drivers who didn't drop all the way back out of the lead pack, but opted to stay in about the 20s or so. Granted, he started in the number 36 position. And look who's on the outside, Justin. It's pole sitter Daniel Eberhard. His pole has already netted a $50 donation to BeTheMatch.org, and now he is looking to score himself $50 as well. He's the only driver on the outside line, though, so not sure how strong that'll work out for him. Does he try to get in line? Don't think there's going to be room. Here comes Fowler, pushed by Mara, at 18 laps to go. The lead pack has got some torn-up cars, but they are playing for keeps.
And it looks like Sexton here all of a sudden getting a good run as well. Remember, Sexton needing to win himself here, so I think now this is the chance for this top line to get the energy Eberhard was looking for. He knew that these cars were looking to try and dart their way onto the top. It's about to get really interesting, but I don't know if there's enough cars, so to speak, Evan, to get enough momentum. Remember, though, there's also a decent amount of power if you tandem draft in Sexton with a bit more of that damage from some of the contact. I don't know if he has the ability, no offense to him with the car right now, to be able to push for long enough.
He is definitely going to slow him down, and of course, I'd be a little bit nervous if I was Liam Sheen behind all of this, because, in Liam Sheen's case, I have to push on that damaged rear bumper, and on the damaged rear bumper, it's very easy to spin somebody out.
And look at the temps right there. They can get very high and a car up in the wall.
The one car slow, that's Joseph Tice. after he was pushing the number 24 machine, Grant Davis. He just drove it off too hard into the corner, up and into the outside wall. No yellow, though. It was just a bit more than a kiss, and it'll drop Joseph Tice to the rear of this 11-car pack. Remember, there's only 19 cars on the lead lap still due to the timing of that yellow that has kicked off kind of this second half calamity. Valderrama currently by a mile in the lucky dog position. Should we get another yellow? Looking to go to 15 laps to go this time by. But now the lead pack is single filed out for the most part. 3 cars still work on the outside way back there. But you're looking off of the back of race leader Grant Davis. It's Eberhardt, Lariah, Sexton, Sheen, your top 5. As Sheen in the 36 now goes to the outside. Looks like Mara going to go and help.
And he's got a very clean race car, a lot of speed here with momentum. This might be a good shot for him. Don't know if he's reaching the right spot, though, to carry the momentum, but Mara's proven he's a good pusher if he has someone behind him to help keep the momentum. Here comes Eberhardt to the top.
Yeah, Eberhardt as well. Going to go to the outside. That leaves Grant Davis. No pushing help. Here comes Eberhardt. And from the back to the front, Eberhardt to the inside and back to the race lead after 66 laps at Daytona. But it is not done yet. The number 36 of Sheen, he'll stay to the outside. He's now going to be pushed by the 23 of Mara, who's P4 that time at the stripe. This lead pack now 15 cars strong as Caldwell, Miller, Jones, and Cruz have latched onto the back of it from the rear. On board Mara, left-hand side, right side, the look at home as he races for a checkered flag and a potential opportunity to go playoff racing in 2020. And I think he's in a pretty good spot. He's been racing with some rear-end damage, though, that he's had for about 30 laps now.
Yeah, Mara's been very impressive. Remember, led that second pack after the craziness. He's made himself a contender all night long. Only a few starts, Evan, though, in the season. But a good chance to try gain momentum and try and potentially show, okay, I can do this. I'm hoping to gain, I think maybe try and also gain momentum for 2021 if he'd like to do so.
He was one of those late entries to the season, and it only run 6 races, as you mentioned, but it's had a couple of good looks, but no top 10s yet in the Mara Motorsports powered machine. You can see left-hand side, the 45 was going a lap down. That's Devin Winfield now -5. I mean, this race just did not work out for that pack of cars, so we had once talked about how they were playing it safe. It bit them just as hard as everybody else. Lap traffic, look out on the inside. It's Ross Cato. He will fall an 8th lap down. With the race leaders too wide, able to move up a lane. Everybody snakes on through. They are safe for the moment, but here we go. Look at the one of Joseph Tice. He'll punch a hole, go 3 wide up the middle, but there's no drafting help for the time being. Morano thinking about it, but he'll hold, let the 8 car in line, and that was about the hardest amount of work I've seen for 2 spots gained in a while, as Tice is ready to go for it.
Absolutely, and it's something, Evan, I've seen done before because drivers have been getting really good with handling cars on the bottom side. Before this year, honestly, I've seen more drivers try and move to the top as lap traffic, but they've been able to get used to the blend rule, like in real life. In regards to that in total, you'll have drivers try and squeeze each other out and take advantage of the 3 wide, and then try and make passes. We've seen it right there with Tice. Able to move up to the 3rd car on the top line, coming to 10 to go this time.
And a little bit squirrely for the 23 of Mara. He pushed up the hill. Tice almost committed to going to the inside of him. Balked at the last moment. A little bit of contact at the left rear quarter panel. They are good for the time being. No, Justin, this isn't the largest pack I've ever seen, but it feels just as dicey as it has been all night long. And I think it'll be quite a miracle if they get 10 more laps, 10 to go this time by, and they can get through these 10 laps without an incident. There are so many hungry drivers looking for a race win, which would put them into the postseason. Grant Davis, your race leader, is one of them. 21st in the points coming into this evening. A win would send him to the postseason and likely give the bump to the bubble driver coming into this race as the points shook out. So that could be a huge, huge swing.
This is going to get wild to see, again, where the runs come in, because at this point, with so many drivers damaged, you're finding your friends where they are at this point. Whoever's got the cleanest car, you're going to try and work with them. Eberhard as well, just trying to, again, get that push from the 23, but he's just not able to close up yet. Looking like he's just trying to set it up for the backstretch, just more lap traffic to the top.
You can see the 43 car into the outside wall. Not going to be an issue. That's a rough night for Sean Kalis. Farinaj, Burke on the bottom. They also have had abysmal nights here tonight from Daytona. And they are going to want to try to put this one behind him and hope that there are brighter skies ahead as we head to Darlington, South Carolina in 1 week's time for the start of the fight for the Full Throttle Cup and the playoffs in 2020. But for now, one more checkered flag on the line, and it is a big, high-pressure moment for Grant Davis right now. Lap lead goes to Eberhard on the outside, but Sheen goes too high. He is going to get squeezed out by the one as Joseph Tice takes that spot away, and to the back goes the 23.
And I think Mara may have checked out to the top line in part there because his temps were a little bit hotter there. Electing to try and cool it on down, go to the back, allow things to shape out as Sheen now with a big push.
He left Davis, went to the outside. New race leader now is Liam Sheen. He's another driver who has had a bit of a limited schedule in the last couple of weeks, and he's been very open on social media that he needs to win this Daytona race to make the playoffs, or that's it for him in 2020. Not going to compete if he doesn't have a chance to fight for the Full Throttle Cup. Wants to go practice and try to prep himself for a run at it in 2021. He is in the mix with good of a chance as anybody else to try to go and get this job done. Of course, the 90 is the spoiler in all of this. Daniel Eberhard trying to get that $50 bonus. Already has gotten the $50 for charity, but he's already a 3-time winner this year. Checked up and out contact behind. Michael Laraya gets tagged. He's off and in the grass. Both he and Valderrama in a caution.
Well, this just changed a lot once again here. Let's take a look at the replay as... again, just a bit of a bad bump. Fowler immediately apologized over the radio, not square. Then just takes him again to the right rear end. Laraya with a great save as the cautions trigger with the car starting to slide into the grass.
There was actually a second incident. I only know because Andrew Pellegrini talked on the radio. The 47 car is where this incident comes from. There it is, the damaged Whataburger machine of Pellegrini. He was trying to work around in that lap time pack, and there it is. The 47 looks like he just pushed up the hill a little bit. Maybe the 5 came down. And as they get into each other, the 21 machine goes around. That is the entry of Alverson, and Doa no Mosier involved, and that is actually what triggers the yellow. So Andrew Pellegrini going to claim responsibility.
Understandable because, yes, the 5 did come down. But you've seen already the 47 was pushing up nearly half a lane just about off the bottom line. That is actually extremely unlucky, I have to say the very least, for Laraya, who we've seen actually jump in the bus stop and all of that. Does lose a couple spots, but because the caution gets to stay inside the top 10.
We have dueling claim of the cautions. John Fowler claimed a responsibility for the incident, but his incident didn't actually trigger the yellow, so he won't receive any sort of the end of the longest line of penalty or anything else. Of course, if we went without the last yellow or 2, JP, this would be a big moment on if drivers top off on fuel or not, but all the yellows in the second half of the race make this a pretty easy call. Looks like Michael Laraya does want to come down pit road. John Fowler also in. But aside from that, all your race leaders out to protect the track position. And a lucky break here for the 0-2 of Valderrama, because I'm not sure, or I wasn't sure, I should say, how the sim was going to score this, and I believe he has been given the wave around. And typically, we talked about that he was like a mile ahead, Justin, in that battle for the Lucky Dog. He was in the grass in the incident with John Fowler, and oftentimes on the service, if you have an incident point when a yellow comes out, you will not be given a wave around. Of course, he was in a totally separate incident, but the sim doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care. It's only looking at the numbers, and I was going to think that that unrelated incident would have hurt the O2, but it looks like Valderrama will get waved around and make it a 20-car lead lap group for a very late race restart. Valderrama, somebody who wants a Hail Mary here, going to race win, would put him in the postseason.
Yeah, he got extremely lucky, I think, there, absolutely, and I'm wondering just what the timing where that yellow flag waved for him, at least. He may have been still on the pavement, because I have seen once or twice, Evan, with if you go in the grass and you don't make contact with somebody, you can get that. But if you're on the pavement for a few seconds after the caution came out, you can do that. That's the only thing I can think of other than that. Man, he is absolutely lucky to become the 20th car in the lead lap here, but this is going to get fun and going to get intriguing, especially to see how everyone tries to plan out the runs and how everyone else will fare out. The interesting thing, too, is going to be, will Matthew Mara be able to make it to the checker flag, Evan, because he's now been on the track for 40 laps. These cautions have allowed him to save fuel, yes, but if we get an air caution, he might not be able to make a GWC, even with the fuel saving.
Yeah, same with Tom Morano. He may be a little bit close. He's been out there for 38 laps. Of course, he's had ample yellow flag laps to save, but at the same time, if it goes to multiple overtime attempts, if any, I think is the key, is where you'll see those guys get a little closer. Top 4 have been out there for 32 laps. They are probably safe, but I mean, there's mixed stuff on the line here. Daniel Eberhardt, what's he fighting for? 3 bonus points. That's what he'd get if he gets another trip to victory lane. But you've got Liam Sheen needing a win if he wants to go to the playoffs this season. Joseph Tice, he is in a position where he's good to go. Brent Davis needs a win. Gary Sexton needs a win. Morano, same story. So there is a lot, and I wonder, Justin, if those drivers who need it can will it here. I mean, if there's anybody who's going to drive like a bull in a china shop, it's those few, because they don't care if they finish second to 42nd. If they need to win this race, that's their only hope.
I've seen that metaphor play out very different ways in a lot of different races, and I think it holds true absolutely tonight. Wherever you get the run from behind, you have to take it to this point. I'm expecting some very significant blocks as well, and this is also a time where, depending on your philosophy, the amount of give and take is very minimal. Now, specifically the give, this is about to get wild. 3 laps to go.
The pace cars down and in, the field in the hands of the Bernardi of Daniel Eberhardt as he tries to spoil the party. Green flag flies. 3 laps to go at Daytona. It's a fight to the inside. Davis for the undercut. It leaves Liam Sheen on the outside. 1 car length advantage to the bottom end of the corner. But here comes reinforcements on the outside. Sexton to the bumper of the 36.
And Sexton might be able to try and push. Remember, he needs a win to try and get to the postseason. This is going to be interesting how the top line fares. Curious if Sexton can try and push Sheen clear to try and take control of that top line.
It is a big push. They had all the speed in the world, but the inside fought back, and Eberhardt holds strong. Davis pushing the car that would keep him out of the playoffs. At some point, he needs to try to leave the 90, but there's nowhere for Davis to go, with the outside line clogged up. Now on board with Sexton, and a caution behind your race leaders. It is Matt Alverson into the outside wall, and we are going to overtime.
And he just got absolutely squeezed a little bit. It was 3 wide, I believe, with your lucky dog. Valderrama tried to shoot it up the middle down into the tri-oval, but the gap was very minimal. Here's the main thing. You see the big run, significant damage, and right there, cut to the right, gets close, just barely hits the left rear. It's enough to hook Alverson into Kalis. All 3 significant damage. Alverson gets the worst of it.
And it's important to keep in mind that both those cars that Valderrama is trying to pass are lapped cars. So he got the wave around, but he is at the end of the line with all those lappers. He's trying to win this race, Justin. I think there was a calculated risk, and it did not pay off for him. But he can't afford to sit around behind those drivers, so he puts the car where it doesn't really fit, causes a wreck, and likely only hurts his chances a little bit more because he either claims that and he gets a single penalty point and restarts at the back again, or he doesn't, and if it's determined to be his fault in a post-race review, he gets 2 penalty points. That's the desperation that we are about to see up front. They just didn't give them time to. And at the moment of the yellow, it looks like that Daniel Eberhardt still scored as our leader. Liam Sheen in second, Gary Sexton third, Grant Davis fourth. So this yellow, dare I say, Justin, almost helps Davis, I think, because again, he's a guy that needs a win. And he was pushing Eberhardt, which is all he can do. He needs to push both he and Eberhardt clear of the outside before he can go to the outside and take a move on Daniel. I just didn't see that happening. Now, yeah, sure, he loses a spot where the yellow is, but he's on the outside. Maybe gives him some freedom to make some moves. We haven't seen a ton of 3 wide tonight, but I would be shocked if these guys don't break out that very outside line here for this next restart. As you mentioned, we are officially in overtime.
And keep in mind, we talked a bit about the tandem draft to 100%, I think, Evan. If you have a car fast enough, tandem draft your way up on that third line to potentially win this race. It needs to be a calculated risk, is 100% the main thing. So I think if you're Davis, you have to play it smart. You have to hope that Sheen gets a good launch. You have to time out the run well to try and give a shove, and then hope that you in turn either get someone to work with or try and jump in front of down the back straightaway to make it 3 wide, or try and keep the control of the second line coming to the white flag, essentially. So there's a couple ways you can do it. This is now where, again, the calculated decisions that you have to think about come into play.
And there is no wait and see how many laps will be left. We will have up to 3 attempts at a 2-lap to go shootout. Steve Soa, the lucky dog, on this most recent yellow. You saw him getting waved around the field. Not without damage, a little bit of back-end damage, but again, I think the thing that keeps Soa out of this, who had been a bubble guy in the playoffs all season long, but Justin, me and you were talking about this before the broadcast, it's the race wins for Kamer and Stanford the last couple of weeks that kept moving that bar for points drivers up and up and up, that has kept those guys out of a fair shot, or out of relative contention, to the point where Bradley Burke is 11th in overall points, but is actually the bubble driver, based on, of course, those 10 different race winners we've seen in 19 races so far this season.
It just again shows the importance of being able to take the checkered flag to try and win a race. I should rather say. If you can't win a race, it makes it that much harder to try and point your way in, depending on how many drivers win. It's the luck of the cards sometimes, right? And tonight, like in real life, you could see a crazy winner here for this green-white checkered.
And just confirming, as Daniel Eberhardt, our race leader, wanted to confirm that there is no passing below the double yellow line. And Cole Freilic's night kind of got turned upside down, but he was penalized for changing lanes before the start-finish line. Doesn't matter if iRacing lets you pass somebody up on the outside before the start-finish. You need to stay either in the inside or on the outside line, at least until you get to the start-finish line on all restarts. Not going to be as open-ended as it was on the one that he got penalized, where we were all single file. This is going to be 2 wide, about 13, 14 rows deep. But just keep that in mind, as you do have to stay within the rules while trying to get creative as possible to make this happen. Eberhardt, Sheen, Sexton, Davis, and Tice, your top 5, with Jones, Caldwell, Kamer, Mara, and Moreno, your top 10. About half of those drivers would need a win here right now to go for the walk-off and to punch their ticket to the postseason. There's a couple of drivers sprinkled in, the likes of Jones, the likes of Eberhardt, Kamer, that are really here just to try and play spoiler. Pace car in. This time, Eberhardt electing to restart on the inside line and to put Liam Sheen to the outside of him for a 2-lap shootout from Daytona International Speedway. Pace car off and in. We look for the 90, a slow roll. Green flag flies. 2 laps to go.
And a tire spin on the top line, but a good launch on the bottom side. Contact to the back of the field.
Huge wreck out of the tri-oval. Caution flag is out, and we will try it again as Daytona strikes again.
And it almost looked like somebody or didn't go in and gave a bump draft. So they try to go up to the gears, and then one car just slid up. I think that was Mara, in fact, that slid up. While Kraus was getting a bit of a bump draft. First, rather, in the 46. Just a couple different drivers end up just having a couple disastrous moments there that ends up triggering this yellow. Take a look here.
Yeah, I mean, watch the 23. So he gets going initially, Justin. I wonder if it was a missed gear shift or if something as silly as the foot slipped off the pedal or what. Because that's kind of where I think he would be going second to third. And maybe he accidentally goes second to first. Although, if you do that, you got a good chance of blowing the engine. Let's listen.
Yep, definitely stuck in gear there, Evan. You see it up in red?
Tough for him, yeah, and it stayed there. When he goes to change, obviously, you get those RPMs back down, but it's stuck at that point, so he's going to stop gaining speed and just kind of parked it at about 135. Everybody else behind still accelerating, and it causes a huge mess behind. The 46 car was involved. That's Dane Cruz. I see McBride, the 10, the 00, the 27, Lariah, the 94, Durham involved, Valderrama involved. Another big mess. And I gotta say, Justin, I always thought it doesn't matter what track we're at, where we are in the schedule, I always thought that night racing always was just a little bit more chaotic. But this has been, I think, one of the wilder trips to Daytona that we have seen in quite some time. Of course, when Adam Benefiel won that season opener, it was a 5-caution race. It was no walk in the park, but certainly wasn't as chaotic as this, as we're forced to go to attempt number 2 at an overtime finish.
I think part of that, though, is a little bit quicker on the speeds and as well the amount of tire wear. It was mentioned a lot in the lead up to that week that there was a lot of tire wear expected on the middle to top lines, especially with the amount of speed carried. You're going up to 202 to 203 miles an hour, depending on how much big of a run you can get into the corner entries. I think all of this just in part factors in, as well as with the fixed set, you have to know and be precise just about on your steering movements and have them dialed in, because they aren't like an open set where you can say adjust to try and stabilize the car on the straightaways or try and make it looser or tighter. That car, you have to drive to its respective drive style. And then on the super speedways, they do have the tendency in some cases to shake around a little bit, yes, but at the same time, they're also given the flexibility to be able to push a little bit longer with less tape, etc. All that factors in, and I think that's in part, again, to some of the craziness on top of, it's the final race of the regular season, Evan. Of course it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, we were joking about this, the last time out with Dylan after the Daytona Road Course. The fact that, it's always been a crazy race wherever we were to end the regular season. The short track at Richmond was so much fun for so many years, but, NASCAR knew what they were doing when they made this the regular season finale. Of course, we saw the drama unfold over the weekend with Jimmy Johnson, Matt DiBenedetto, and William Byron all fighting alongside one another. And while our battle isn't quite as easy to track with how chaotic it has been, it still brings that same opportunity. You look at your top 5 right now. Top 6, half are in, half are out. Eberhardt, good. You got Dylan Jones, he's good. And then you got the other half, Liam Sheen, Gary Sexton, Grant Davis. Those 3 all need wins. If they win, which we'll know if we get it done on this attempt in about 2 minutes and 30 seconds, if they win, they're going to race to the playoffs. And those are guys who, again, you win and you're in each round. They could be a championship underdog. But it comes down to this, and this is a wide-open race. There is no complaining about I'm on old tires, or I'm not really set up for this, or he's just been too good all night. Every single car on track, yes, even the damaged ones, have just as good an opportunity to win this race as everybody else. And 3 of the top 4 need a win to go to the playoffs. This could be a thriller.
Absolutely. Here's the main thing, too. We see Eberhardt on the apron. Keep in mind, Sheen, Eberhardt, Davis, Tice, Kamer, Caldwell, a bunch of others have been on the track for almost 42 laps. They might be close on fuel. If there's an green-white checkered attempt, this could get even more intriguing. Because the first driver who can make it on a tank for sure, if there's a third attempt, is Gary Sexton in third.
42 laps for a majority of the cars inside of the top 10. They are close if we continue to push the envelope. The pace cars down and in. A handful of drivers need a win to go to the playoffs. Green flag flies. It's overtime at attempt number 2.
And a good launch, and already Davis down to the bottom side. Top line starting to already form up with some of the teammates.
We saw that outside fall apart last time, and it happens again. Davis gets to the inside of Sheen, and he is going to drop like a rock, trying to side draft. Won't happen. 3-car breakaway on the inside now. Does Davis go to the outside, or does he hold the bottom? Sexton trying to get underneath the 90. It turns him. Eberhardt saves it. Here comes Davis. 3 wide up the middle as Davis tries to go to the race lead. Sexton holds the bottom. Sheen gets forced out wide, and we are side by side for the race lead as they look for the white flag. Both need a win, but it's the 24 of Davis in front. 1 lap to go.
And this could get ugly down this final lap. Again, Eberhardt with a big shove. Will he try and leave Davis out to drive down the back straight away?
Eberhardt fighting for win number 4 on 2020 and a $50 bonus. The 24 of Davis for a win. Oh, Dylan Jones into the outside wall. Big mess behind. More car spin. No yellow. We stay green. It'll be a run to the checkered flag. Eberhardt still pushing the 24. It's going to keep Gary Sexton in third. Too far away. Here's the moment for Grant Davis as Eberhardt looks to the outside, tries to draft. There's contact, a photo finish at the line, and it's Grant Davis winning the regular season finale and punching his ticket to the playoffs by 1/100th of a second.
You talk about needing to finish with a victory. How about that? And it just so happens to be the man in the number 24 machine, Evan. Perfect timing with what happened in real life, and perfect timing to the run for Davis to take home the checkered flag.
And he played it about as well as he could. He benefited from the kind of squirrel between, Sexton and the 90, that quarrel, I should say, as he tried to kind of undercut the 90. I thought it was going to take Eberhardt out of this race. Eberhardt saves it. Davis goes 3 wide, and then Eberhardt was setting him up that whole final lap. Pushed him all the way. It kept Sexton too far back in third where he didn't have an opportunity to go for the race win. He went high late. Davis threw a block, and by 0.011 seconds, 1/100th, Grant Davis edges out Daniel Eberhardt, will fight for the Full Throttle Cup in 2020, and that will bump a driver who was in on points coming into this evening out. And then for added style points, the 24 wrecked it after the race, but it is good enough to come back around and to do some burnouts as Grant Davis is a Full Throttle Cup Series winner in 2020.
And keep in mind, Davis has shown speed throughout this campaign many times, Evan. Remember seeing a lot of times, especially in the early part of the season, inside the top 10 with good chances to win some of the races and helping out some of his teammates, especially with Tice. Tonight, though, he knew what he needed to do, and in the end, got the right push at the right time from Eberhardt, and in turn, with all the craziness behind, it, I think, in part helped dissipate what happened in the back draft, and in turn, knew he needed to edge Eberhardt to lock himself in, didn't give any closeness there, to say the very least. When you need a win, you are going to do anything it takes to try and fight to get the checkered flag.
White flag lap from high above in the virtual blimp, and watch this. Again, the 90 is setting him up this entire time. They do not break contact this whole way around the racetrack. They start wrecking behind, drivers drop out. You can see that second line gone, and now it falls apart. Nobody else was hooked up the challenge. They thought maybe if the 90 makes a move here, Sexton has a chance, but he stays on him. This guarantees that it is a 2-horse race. The 90 makes a perfectly timed move, I think, right here, out of 4. and then the 24 is going to chop him right about there, that little bit, forcing the 90 up the hill at the risk of course, spinning yourself across his nose. Is the difference between Grant Davis winning this race and going to the playoffs and finishing second and going home, probably not making any more starts in 2020. There is the shot. The 90 forced up the hill all the way to the outside in the tri-oval. The 24 holds the inside, and that's the margin between going to the playoffs and not, as Grant Davis gets the job done. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside, and when we come back, we will talk with your top finishers and take a look at the field of 16 for the RealSimRacing Full Throttle Cup Series playoffs in 2020. It's a race win for Grant Davis at Daytona International Speedway. We will talk with him from Victory Lane next. You're watching RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. And back live from the virtual Daytona International Speedway as RaceSpot TV's coverage of the 2020 RealSimRacing Full Throttle Cup Series is powered by Boosted, the place where gamers and creators go to monetize digitally. Their team will build you a totally free e-commerce store and help get sponsorships for those looking to build their brand online. Boosted is the #1 sponsorship platform for esports influencers. Join their team and visit boosted.club for more information. Back here after a thrilling double overtime finish as Grant Davis for Flat Out Motorsports has gone to Victory Lane, and we await him down for a post-race interview. Justin, first race win of the year. I think we can cut him some slack as he finds his way down. So in the meantime, I'll toss things off to you with Daniel Eberhardt, who comes home tonight in second.
Yes, indeed, and it was an exciting finish to this race and an exciting finish to this regular season. We see the rest of your results on screen with many of the different comers, but in the end, Eberhardt, you had a crazy finish to this one. Talk us through the final green-white checker attempt of the night.
Yeah, I was scared I wasn't going to make it on fuel, and Gary was behind me, and I knew he was going to be a good pusher, and I went up just a little bit, and I was hoping Gary would follow me, and then he went down the back straightaway, and he got up under me a little bit, and I guess I thought we were closer to the yellow line than that, and it turned me. Oh, man, but I wheeled it up out of there. I can't believe I didn't take out anybody with that whole move. I was like, this is it. I seen the wall, and then I seen daylight, and then I jumped right back in front of the 36 of Liam. I don't know if I cost him anything. I was trying to get back down and hopefully he gave me a shove, but he gave me a shove, and I think it shot him up. And then Jones came through, but Jones had so much damage, and then the 24 came up of Grant, and he made the perfect move. There's nothing else I could do. I was just hoping they'd wreck like they did down the back straightaway. And when we came down, and I pushed him all the way around, and we came out of 3 and 4, and that's the only chance I had. And then he doored me, and that's all fair and everything else. I wasn't mad at him when I came across the line, just smacked him. I'm like, good job, but I was more pissed at getting turned to the left and then back to the right from Gary, but I can't blame the dude. I can't. I'm not upset with him. I'm just pissed it all came down to that, and then I'm pissed that we had so many yellows.
Indeed, of course, with a lot of the drivers inside that top 10 fighting for victories for a chance to fight for a playoff spot in the final regular season race. Of course, one thing I want to ask about is, of course, tonight, the Bryce Whitson Jr. Memorial 200. You elected to take the Never Quit Challenge tonight by sacrificing the pole position with an ELL penalty. That in turn led to a donation to bethematch.org. You were just about 0.011 away from an additional $50 at the end of the evening. Your thoughts on Bryce Whitson Jr. and racing for a good cause tonight to try and raise funds for bethematch.org?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I remember him racing with them a lot. I think he raced 2 seasons ago. I think he even raced a little bit last season in the Winter Series, the Icebreaker Series, and he was always a nice guy. You know, he was, you know, just a genuine dude. You could talk to him, and there's nothing, you know, more horrible than seeing somebody go through the stuff they went through with that disease. And I just wish and pray every day there was a cure for cancer in this world, and all of, you know, at the end of the day, sim racing, real racing, or anything else, we're real people. You know, we all have feelings, we all have family, we have everything in life, and this is just something we do as a hobby. And to be able to race with somebody who fought that damn hard for something, man, it's just, I would never wish that on anybody. And for him to fight and still sim race and everything, I mean, it's just, that's a true fighter, and that's somebody who deserved, you know, the win in that one. And he came up just short, and, you know, I just pray for his wife and everything, because he had a little family, I know, and I think it was just him and his wife, and just an awesome guy, just a great guy all around.
It's actually, as well, just during the springtime, big part of Hendrick Motorsports' efforts for the Pro Invitational. Fortunate, again, with what happened to him, but anything else you'd like to add before you let you go and before you start your focus to the playoffs, round of 16?
Yeah, I just got to give thanks to all my guys. You know, it was kind of iffy today with everything, and then we pitted with 5 to go, or 5 laps in, and we wanted to get that situation. You know, we wanted to help Durham win this race, Steve Durham, but it's just doesn't work out that way in plate racing. But I got to thank all of them, and SK Sim Racing, Sean Kalis, for everything he does. He's a great guy, helps me out. He's sells a couple things through his SK Sim Racing website for sim racers, and there's pretty good deals on there, so you can go check them out. I got to thank you guys and Boosted.club for all they did for coming on with this series, Adam for putting that money up, and for everything y'all did tonight, you know, for the logos that were on the cars and donating $1. And I want to get with whoever to send the money to, because if I didn't win, I was still going to donate $50 if I got the pole and did the challenge. So I want to get with whoever that is so I can give that, because you never know, it might save somebody else's life who's going through hard times.
Very honorable, and couldn't have said it better myself. Congratulations on the podium finish tonight, Daniel. Good luck at Darlington next week.
Thank you, buddy.
Again, Daniel Eberhardt, P2 tonight. Just a touch bit short in this action this evening. What a run, to say the very least. And believe we also have, in the meantime, Gary Sexton standing by in P3. He now joins me from Elliott Sauer Esports. Gary, couple spots short from making the postseason. How are you feeling after this one?
I mean, it is what it is. You know, I started the year just kind of doing this for fun, just looking for another league to run. I wasn't sure how committed I could be to it. You know, we ended up putting together a good bit of races that were decent enough to get us that close. I know I missed a bunch of races. You know, that's really all on me. I was kind of in a really good spot heading into Michigan, and I threw it away there. I just hit the wall, wrecked myself out. So there's not much I could do about, you know, tonight, except for try to lead as many laps as I can and just be up front all the time and get the win. And, you know, we were doing that up until the first green flag stops, and then someone came through there like a bowling ball and put us down engine power. We were down about, I don't know, 5 to 6 RPMs the whole race. So I just didn't have enough there at the end to get the run I needed to get by those guys. I think if we would have had it, it would have been a different story. I would have been a lot more aggressive to try and stay up front. But yeah, all in all, it's been a really, 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 really solid year of sim racing for me. Just lots of things to be happy about. So I can't be too upset that we missed the playoffs here. We're going to go and try to, you know, get our first win and then see what happens in the Winter Series.
Next race is at Darlington for the start of the postseason. To touch upon that, one, will we see you there? Two, your thoughts if we do indeed see you there, how that race may play out for you.
Yeah, I'll be there. I should be at every race the rest of the year. Darlington, I love that track. I look to, especially in the Cup car, I've got a lot of laps there, so I hope to run top 5. I know that, you know, Andrew and Daniel and those guys are going to be really tough to beat every week. But that's why we do it. We show up, try to beat the best, and yeah, it should be a good playoffs. I wish everybody that made the playoffs luck, and I can't wait to see how it ends up.
Anything else you'd like to add, or anything else you'd like to say before we let you go?
Yeah, I'd like to you know, thank Evan and RSR for putting on a charity race for Bryce. It's good to see the sim racing community come together during a tragedy like that. And glad to see everyone that participated in the different, you know, with the decals and the pole award, and Daniel with the pole award and stuff like that. It's really cool. I'd just like to, you know, thank the team, Elliott Sadler Esports, Elliott Sadler and those guys. We'll have a nice Elliott Sadler throwback next week, throwing back to his first win in the Cup Series at Bristol with the motorcraft car. Just going to have to say Elliott Sadler Esports on it. And, yeah, that's about it. You know, do your part to help racial inequality, and we'll have a good one.
Thank you very much once again for the time, and have to say Elliott Sadler made me very overjoyed because as well 2 real life throwbacks debut today for that respective race. Congratulations on the podium.
Thank you, sir.
Gary Sexton, P3 on the racetrack. Leave Evan standing by now with your race winner.
Now with your race winner here tonight from the Daytona International Speedway, and that is Grant Davis in the number 24 Chevy in walk-off fashion, wins the regular season finale and will fight in the playoffs in 2020. Grant, just talk us through this race from 36th on the grid to those painstaking final laps when it was up in the air.
Well, everything that could go wrong went wrong. The computer I'm using is very old, and I almost didn't make the race tonight. And a lot of my wrecks or reasons for finishing so poorly for most of this season is usually from a computer problem I've had. So I've been working on it, trying to fix it. But anyways, I got it working at the last minute, was able to get in this race, and had to start at the back because of it. And man, that was stressful. I've got my Apple Watch on. I'm ready to look at my heart rate, how it was during that race. But yeah, once I finally got in the race and was able to race, everything was good. There's no issues with the computer. And then it was just a matter of, you know, were they going to wreck early? And I gave it like 15 laps, and then I told my teammates, I was like, all right, let's get paired up. And I I don't know. I mean, that's probably the luckiest I've been all season because there was the early wreck. I missed it, and then we got separated. Got lucky with that second caution that bunched us up. And then finally, my teammates were all lined up with me, and I was like, okay, the racing gods might be on my side tonight for the first time ever. And then we got split up, and I was like, oh, man, I ain't going to make it. And I was just like, you know what, just full send, we're going for it. And then I got lucky, was able to cut into the bottom, and then was able to split the 13 and the 90. I think we all kind of got the shoving really hard on that bottom lane because I jumped down there. I think we got kind of bottlenecked, and then I went through the middle. And then from there on, I was just kind of dragging the brake to make sure the 90 didn't get a run on me. And then after that, he got to my outside. I didn't really want to door him. I don't like to do that to people, but I mean, it was either that or my season's over. So I gave him a little nudge, but I don't know. He's a really good driver. I hated to door him, but I got a win. I'm in the playoffs, so I'm pretty pumped.
Yeah, all's well that ends well. And of course, you talk about all of the chaos. I mean, we were talking at the end of the race that was probably one of the crazier races we've seen just because of the incidents and kind of how it shuffled up things on the restarts, that it was kind of hard to control things. Knowing that you needed the win, you mentioned that point where you kind of flipped the switch in your head of going full send. I mean, how hard is it in any regular season finale, but certainly here at Daytona, to try to have control over a situation which is so uncontrollable?
I mean, all you can do is just try to be aware of the trends that happen at plate tracks. Like, I know there was one point, this was close to the end, me and Joey were up front and we were on the bottom, and I was like, you know, that outside lane is just so good, pushing. So we both tried to move up to the top because I was like, if we're going to be the control car, I was like, I don't want to be on the bottom. I want to be in the middle. And we tried to move up there, and I think he ended up in the wall. But just trying to watch that outside the whole time. That's all I did that last lap. With my computer kind of giving me issues, I actually couldn't hear anything going on in the room. My teammates were talking to me through Discord, through my iPhone, and they were relaying information saying there's nothing formed up on the outside, nothing formed. So I just kept kind of dragging the brake to make sure Daniel couldn't get any kind of run on me. And I just kept waiting for it to happen, waiting for somebody to go up to the outside. So luckily, it worked out in my favor. But, man, that was chaotic. And it was just stressing me out even more. We kept having green, white checkers. I was like, man, let's just get this over with. I'm tired of worrying about it. But it worked out.
Well, a lot of the guys that went for the win in you're in got a win. I mean, some of them, 20 races ago. And they had that chance to kind of get over that, relax, and then kind of figure things out. There is no sigh of relief period because starting next week, you're on the chopping block because we go racing for the round of 16. I mean, there's no off weeks from now through the championship. Even though it took the Hail Mary on the last week to get this car into the playoffs, I don't think people should kind of take that as a sign that it's going to be a struggle for you when we get there. Not, first top 5 of the year, but you have a top 10 earlier, of course, and have had a lot of really good runs that were just kind of spoiled with the bad luck. So what kind of noise do you think you could make here once these playoffs get underway?
Well, tonight I feel like Tom Brady in the fourth quarter. That was awesome. But as far as the next 10 races, I mean, I've got really fast teammates, and really, it's just a matter of can I keep my computer cooperating with me. When my computer is fine, I can run fast laps. I know at Kansas, I was racing second, and I didn't have no problems that night. I just sped on pit road, which I got up to 8th in 5 laps from 30th. If I can just keep the computer fine, I can rely on Michael and Joey and Sam and Bradley, and I feel like I can finish pretty well. I think the 88 and Daniel and the 44, those are going to be the guys to beat, though. So I've got some work to do to catch up. But the first step is, have a computer that's going to cooperate with me. But I think I can get it fixed up.
Well, we look forward to seeing how the postseason kicks off, and it all starts next Monday night from Darlington. But at least for now, from Daytona, where you're a winner in the RealSimRacing Full Throttle Cup Series, powered by Boosted. Before we let you get out of here, Grant, anybody you want to say hi to?
I just want to thank my teammates for how committed they were trying to help me make it into the playoffs. They're all in, to my knowledge. I haven't looked at the points, but I think most of us are in. And Joey was telling me at the end, he's like, man, this may not work out, but we sure did give it an effort. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm in position, and that's all you can really ask for at Daytona, because it is so out of your control, which lane you get put in and which lane takes off. So, I don't know. I just really owe a lot to them. So, much appreciated.
We look forward to seeing how this team does in the playoffs. Grant, we appreciate you racing with us on the Mondays. Congratulations on the win.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks.
To race winner tonight from the Daytona International Speedway, driver of the number 24, Grant Davis, gets into the playoffs. And Justin, on that note, let's talk about the playoffs in this championship, because I think it's important to note that, of course, now as things shake up, I mean, we talked about the bubble, and we said that Bradley Burke may have been a choppy block driver. Teammate to Grant Davis unofficially is out, courtesy of the win by his teammate. The points that I have, and of course, post-race review still needs to happen, these were the points as they were, and you could see that as it bumps everybody up, bump Davis up there as well, that it moves that elimination line down, and that puts Burke, that puts Chambliss on the cusp, and I believe eliminating those two drivers who were in a safe position coming into this evening. Again, all of that unofficial. We'll have it official once we know on all of the RSR social channels. It's at RealSimRacing on Twitter and Facebook.com/RealSimRacing official, I believe. But we promised fireworks in a regular season finale. We got fireworks.
We definitely did, and it's exactly similar to what we've seen in real life with the fireworks there. It was expected to be wild, and I think that still even exceeded some of our expectations with some of the craziness to determine who would move on to the postseason. But the main thing is now, if you're in that playoff, your focus is trying to survive the place they call too tough to tame, because Darlington's not an easy track to go to. Tons of fall-off. Lots of challenges, especially off turn 2. Differences in some driving styles. And a track, remember, that is known for its incidents, especially down the back straightaway with that very, very large apron. The track could see some great racing and a crazy run, to say the very least. The last time we were there, Andrew Freenosh was fairly dominant. The question's going to be, will he be dominant once again, and how will things fare out for these drivers now with the round of 16?
And one of the things that I love about Darlington as a playoff opener, and you heard it in our post-race interviews, with this package on the Cup cars, it's not a thriller every week. It's a very different style of racing. Darlington is no easier than it was 2 years ago, than it was 5 years ago. It is still an extremely difficult race. And beyond just Darlington, I mean, let's look at the round of 16. So we have 16 drivers now, 3 wins for each, or 3 points for each win for the drivers who locked into based on a win. So they have a little bit of a bubble, but there is no, Kevin Harvick 50-point cushion through every round. There are no playoff points in Real Sim Racing. We have Darlington. We talked about Richmond, which used to be the regular season finale. That'll be round 2 in the round of 16. And then we go to Bristol. I mean, this is a rough and tough set, of course, capped off with night races. And then that's just to get to the round of 12. Then you get there, you got a road course, a super speedway. We'll talk about that when we get to that point. But this round of 16 is no joke. And again, we are here every single Monday night now through November for the rest of this championship. I love that lineup of 3 tracks for that round.
Yeah, it's going to be a crazy round, to say the very least, because you need to be good at not just a track like Darlington, which we talked about is the difficult part. There's still the short tracks where there's a lot of potential attrition, there's a lot of potential for unpredictability. There's been races where we've seen at times strategy come into play. There's been times where we've seen 20-car pileups at Bristol. I think the daytime race is the best example, where there was that massive pileup at that race. It's going to be wild just to try and have a shot to get on to the next round. And remember, there's still a lot of crazy races down in the other rounds too, like Martinsville to determine who goes to the Final 4. The Roval, the cutoff for the round of 12. It's not easy. If you're fighting for a championship, there is really no cakewalk races for any of these drivers based on what we've seen in the regular season.
It's going to be a ton of fun, and it only gets harder as these runs go on. And if any drivers are looking for some road course practice, the RSR Outlaw Truck Series is at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park tomorrow night for one of the fun series, which I'm going to attempt to drive in and embarrass myself. But the Roval, I think, is one of my favorite road tracks, so that's going to be a fun show. And we hope that everybody joins us for the rest of the playoffs. And again, wanted to say one more time, thanks everybody for tuning in, Justin, to this race specifically for the Bryce Whitson Memorial 200. As we mentioned, Bryce has been kind of racing with us on and off since 2014. Of course, his battle with leukemia had been going on for 3 years, so he was only able to make limited starts in the Cup Series last year. But I think easily, what do we consider Eberhardt taking the challenge, dropping off of the pole, the lap-led bonuses, and independent donations from a bunch of drivers, that it's going to be well more than $100 raised for BeTheMatch.org tonight, which I think is great.
And there's a reason for that. Again, he was so well respected across the service by multiple drivers, as they tried to discuss at the beginning of the race. Just about everyone in the field has at least raced with him before and knows who he is. He's someone that was impactful whenever he was on the track. His story was impactful. And many drivers showed that when the news came out, unfortunately. Of course, we talked about as well a little bit during post-race coverage his work he was doing recently, even for the Pro Invitational Series. He was the crew chief for Jeff Gordon for that finale at North Wilkesboro. He did a lot of work across the iRacing service and helped Hendrick Motorsports even this year as things were starting to get towards the final few months, unfortunately. Overall, I think with everyone putting in what they did tonight, Evan, a lot of work and a lot of praise has to be given to everyone involved, as well as the drivers, for helping raise the funds and helping push forward with the cause, as well as others who want to remember the name Bryce Whitson Jr.
Yeah, even up to as recently, and I think it might be a little bit different, the fact that, of course, I'm involved with running the stuff on Monday nights here with RSR, but, I mean, if you go to RealSimRacing.org, which is the RSR website, the only reason it exists is because of Bryce. Because even up until like a month ago, 2 months ago, when I was trying to figure out how to go through stuff like that and try to, help things out with the series, even with everything that Bryce was dealing with, he shot me a message, hey, here's, a good tip for website hosting. And of course, this is a good way to register a domain and register a website. And that kind of ties it as well with the racing that he did and the help that he did with Hendrick Motorsports, is he just loved racing. I met him at the track a couple of years back at Las Vegas Motor Speedway briefly, and of course kept in contact. Justin, we do so many broadcasts, with so many different drivers. There's not a lot of them that kind of stay in touch, and Bryce was always somebody that would message you, and if you posted something and had a question like I did with the website stuff, you didn't have to seek him out for help. He would offer help, even with everything that he was going through. And we'll miss Bryce with us on Monday nights, and I'll echo what we heard with Daniel and all the other drivers that certainly were keeping his family and friends in our thoughts at this time. But that's it for us here tonight from Daytona International Speedway. I want to thank all of you for tuning in on behalf of the entire team at RealSimRacing, your RaceSpot TV team tonight. For Hugo Luis, Justin Prince, and myself, Evan Pasocco, a big congratulations to Grant Davis. He walks off the regular season, and he will fight for the Full Throttle Cup in 2020 alongside 15 other competitors as they fight for the hardware when it's all said and done. We'll see you next Monday night. That is September the 7th from the track Too Tough to Tame at the virtual Darlington Raceway. That race and every race of the 2020 Real Sim Racing Full Throttle Cup Series, powered by Boosted, can be found exclusively right here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Sports Network. Until next time, good night from Daytona.